So a little bit about myself. I'm 25 years old. I'm a husband. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a 3-time author. I'm a speaker. And I'm on a mission to eradicate stigma. And I'm on this mission because I know the impact that stigma can have when it comes to seeking professional help when you need it because of my own background. So that's my story right now. But as it relates to where I came from, I want to rewind just a little bit. So I graduated from high school in 2014, and I graduated in May. And by June, I was out of there. Right? Anybody in here travel away from home to go to college? Raise your hand. Anybody in here? Okay. Now, how excited were you to leave home, or was I just the only one? Anybody else excited? Yeah? Let me hear some noise. Anybody excited? Yeah, I was excited. I was ready to go, right? I wanted my own independence. I found that I can start this new journey, this new adventure. I was the first in my family to go off to college, very first in my family. So I was excited. I wanted to do something different. And so I had the plan all figured out. I knew exactly what I was going to study, information technology at the time. Any IT majors in here? IT? Okay, it wasn't for me either. I ended up dropping that major the first year. But I knew exactly what I wanted to study. It was IT. I knew exactly how long it was going to take me to graduate, 4 years. I knew what kind of job I was going to have once I graduated, how much money I was going to make. I had the plan all figured out, all planned out. You know how they talk about, having a vision board and writing down your goals and writing down how you want to attain those goals? That was me. I'm very specific when it comes to that. I had the plan all figured out. And I love this quote because it matches my experience as a college freshman. It says, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Oh, don't laugh at me. Who did that? This whole side. Yeah, I got punched in the mouth during my freshman year of college. And I wasn't physically punched in the mouth, but it was by life. I found myself isolated. I found myself losing motivation, and that same excited person that I was going off to college vanished. I was overwhelmed. I was stressed. I was depressed, and I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know what depression was. So during my first year, I decided not to take the traditional route, and I didn't live on campus, so I ended up having my own apartment. I said, if I'm going to go for it, I'm going all the way, right? Have my own apartment, which meant that I now had my own bills, which meant that I had to have a job. And if I didn't have a job, I was going to be homeless, right? And so I had to work. And I was working full-time hours trying to manage everything that I had going on. I was involved on campus in different student organizations. I found a church, so I was involved in church. So I was doing a lot. And it got to a place where I started to experience stress. But in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, this is just a part of it. Like, you're a college student, you feel stressed, you push through it, you add more to your plate, and you just figure it out. Anybody feel that way? That's just college, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm thinking to myself, you feel stressed. This is a part of it. Figure it out. Keep moving. And on top of that, I grew up watching my Jamaican parents. We have anybody from Caribbean background? No? Yeah? Okay. So watching my parents work from sun up to sundown and not have any complaints. And so I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I can complain. Right? There's no way I can say I'm struggling. And so I just sucked it up and tried to power through it. And I remember it started to affect my mood. And I started to lose motivation. I started to feel off a little bit. And I knew something was wrong. Because it's like you know yourself well enough to know when you're okay, when you're doing well, and when you're not doing so well. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a name for it. I remember being home one afternoon, and I was in my bedroom of my apartment. Under my covers, it was broad daylight outside, but I had the blinds closed because that was my safe space. I didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to talk to anyone. And I remember getting a phone call. And this wasn't the first phone call because this same friend that called me this time had been calling me all week, but I was ignoring her phone calls, ignoring her text messages. I just wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone. But it was a weekend, and I decided to pick up. I picked up the phone, tried to put on this upbeat tone, right? Yo, what's good, my G? I hear, yo, Abe, you good? Of course I'm good. What you mean, am I good? I'm always good. What you talking about? Are you sure you're good? I haven't been seeing you on campus. You haven't been at church. You've been ignoring my phone calls, my text messages. And I know you get my text messages because we got an iPhone, and I see when you read the text message. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I've just been busy. Been working a whole lot of hours. Got a whole lot of schoolwork that I have to catch up on. But in my mind, I know I'm not really good. I just don't know how to have this conversation. And then my friend goes completely silent. It was the most awkward pause that I've ever been a part of. I looked at my phone to see if she was still there, and she was still there. Thinking to myself, oh my God, what's she going to say next? And then my friend says, I'm not getting off of the phone until you tell me what's really going on. My friend said, I am not getting off of the phone until you tell me what's really going on. And it was in that moment where I had to make a decision. For the first time in my life, I was challenged in a way that I had never been challenged before. Many people have asked me, hey, how's it going? How you doing? I'm doing well. Everything's great. Put a nice smile on my face so I don't have to really talk about what's really going on. But in this moment, I was placed in a position, and I like to call it an opportunity, had an opportunity to be honest, to be open, and to be transparent. And she said that, and I hesitated. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not saying anything. And I said, I'm good. I promise I'm good. And then she says, yo, I will show up at your front door, and you know not to play with me, Abraham. So at this point, my heart's racing, thoughts are racing. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't want her to see me like this, so let me open up. And I ended up telling her everything. I told her how I wasn't sleeping at night because I was having these negative racing thoughts. I told her how I wasn't eating. I just couldn't find an appetite, and I didn't know why. I told her that I didn't have motivation to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. I felt confused. I felt lost, and I didn't know what was going on. She said, it sounds like you're depressed. Are you depressed? Nah. Me? Nah, there's no way I can be depressed. Like, I'm an optimistic guy. I'm a man of God. I work out in the gym. People like me, we don't get depressed. I'm good. She said, everything you just described sounds like depression. You know, if you are depressed, like, it's okay. We have a counseling center here on campus, CAPS. You can reach out to a counselor. You can get help. They can help you work through this so that you're not going through it by yourself. And I thought to myself, nah, I'm good. And we ended that conversation. Now, a couple of weeks went by, and during this time, I'm still having these dark thoughts. I'm still not able to sleep at night. I'm still not having the motivation to go to class. And now at this point, I'm calling off of work. I'm emailing my professors and saying I can't show up because I'm sick, right? Making up these different things. and I'm trying to cope with what I'm feeling in that moment. I tried drinking to numb the pain. I tried smoking because hopefully it can slow my thoughts down just enough so that I can go to sleep. But everything that I was trying, nothing worked. I found myself in my bathroom looking in the mirror and crying my eyes out. And I don't cry that often. Well, now I cry a little bit more because I'm more in touch with my feelings, my emotions, right? But back then, I didn't cry too often. So when I cried, it was like boo-hoo crying, like it was bad, right? And so I'm in the bathroom looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm crying my eyes out. And I'm praying to God, and I'm asking, like, how did I get here? How do I get out of here? What's going on with me? And the thought came to me about the conversation I had with my friend. She mentioned the counseling center and that I could potentially try it out and get some help. So I said to myself, you know what? What's the worst that can happen, right? I've tried as much as I know to try, and I'm desperate. Anybody in here ever been sick and tired of being sick and tired? Like you've been at a place in your life where you're like, yo, something's got to change. Anybody? So I was in that place. So I was willing to try anything. Anything. Now I was nervous and I was afraid. But because I was in a desperate position, I said, I'm going to the counseling center. Now, I want to share with you my experience. And don't laugh at me this time. You laughed at me earlier. Don't laugh at me this time. So first time ever going to counseling. First time ever trying, mental health support in this way. And so the way our counseling center was built or set up at UWF is it's in the health center, right? So at the bottom floor is where you can go if you are going for any health reasons, any physical health reasons, things like that. And then at the top floor is where we have the counseling center. So I walked into the building of the health center, and as I'm walking, I'm looking around because I'm thinking to myself, I don't want anybody that I know to see me walking upstairs because everybody knows, like, that's the counseling center upstairs. And in my mind, I have so much shame and stigma associated with mental health and getting any sort of support. And so as I'm walking up the stairs, my heart's racing. I'm just looking around, like, trying to rush upstairs. And as soon as I get halfway, I take off, run into the room, and I immediately go to the front desk. And so I meet with the receptionist at the front desk, and she was extremely kind, very helpful. And I share with her that I don't know what's going on, but I think I need to see somebody, right? There's something going on. Can't really sleep. Can you help me in some way? The nicest lady ever, right? She's like, of course, sweetie. Like, this is what we're here for. We can help you out. If you can do me a favor, just go complete this questionnaire on the computer, come see me, and we'll have somebody see you right away. So luckily, I was able to actually meet with a professional that same day. After submitting the questionnaire, it was a pretty smooth process. I sat down with a psychiatrist for the very first time. And she's asking me these questions. I'm answering her questions. And that day, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. Now, for me, being diagnosed was bittersweet. The difficult thing with being diagnosed was, again, I had a lot of shame. And I felt that there was something wrong with me, right? I thought to myself, people like me, we don't get depressed. How did I even get here? What did I do to get here? But on the flip side of that, I was hopeful because this was something real. And so it wasn't that I was just struggling and in a hopeless situation, but this was called depression. And if it was real, then that means I can get help and potentially overcome this. Right? So it gave me this hope that I had. So I sat down with the psychiatrist, was diagnosed and was prescribed medication for depression, started to take medication. Even though I was skeptical about this entire experience, again, I was desperate, right? Desperate. And was on medication for some time and then started into counseling. And I was starting to see a therapist. and was able to really talk through some of the challenges that I was having. And that really started my journey of treatment, of recovery, and working through the challenges that I experienced with my mental health. Right? But one of the main things that I want to talk about, and I think we lost power here. Okay, thank you. One of the things that, can you all hear me? Yep, okay. One of the things that I learned about myself when it came to getting the help that I needed is that I didn't have to wait till I was at rock bottom. I didn't have to wait until I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. The reason why it took me so long to get the help that I needed was because I was afraid to ask for it. I was afraid of what people might say, what people might think if they knew that I was struggling with my mental health. There was a lot of stigma associated with it. I was afraid. I felt shame. And I want to share this quote with you all. It's by Les Brown, one of my favorite speakers. He says, "Ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong." And as I've grown and I've matured and I've learned a little bit more about mental health, I found out that asking, thank you so much. I found out that asking for help is a sign of strength. Being able to see where I am in that moment and acknowledge that I can't figure this out by myself and then ask for that help is being courageous. Right? So one of my objectives in our time together as we're having this discussion, and I want to make this interactive, I'll be asking you some questions, and I want you to engage with me, is I want to do two things. Number one, I want to be able to share with you my story in full transparency. I want to be able to be vulnerable with you and show you what it looks like to be honest, open, and transparent. And then I want to share with you some tips and some strategies that you can consider when it comes to supporting each other.